Go to getamazonnow.com and give a gift card.
Welcome to humanity. This is our one.
Whatever it takes, we got to say whatever it takes is what it took.
This is Brock Lesnar, and you're listening to Fight Net Radio.
Yo, hi, this is Sugar Ray Leonard, and you listen to Fight Net Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to listen to Fight Net Radio.
Me, Harvey Oswald, what's your name? I know how am I supposed to know you?
This is Frank Shamrock. We're listening to Fight Net Radio.
Hi, this is Nia, the Knockout St. John, and you're listening to Fight Net Radio, and there's no way I would ever touch Lee.
This is Chuck Jackson.
I am Stephen Bonner, and you're listening to Fight Net Radio.
Dan Henderson, you're listening to Fight Net Radio.
Everybody, welcome to Fight Net Radio, where Lee's burning every bridge there is out there. All right.
Hi, this is Manny Pacquiao. I'll fight anybody on Fight Net Radio.
Hi everyone, welcome to Fight Net Radio. I am joined talking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with Brandon Parker, who competes this Friday. So if you're listening to it, you can go back. I'm sure it's on Flow Sports, knowing that. This Friday at, let me get it right, it's Fight to Win Pro 26, so it's definitely going to be on Flow Sports. And I'm joined by Brandon Parker. How you doing, Brandon?
Oh, not too bad at all. How are you doing today, Lee?
I'm doing great. Let's talk about, first of all, Fight to Win. How'd you get involved with the Fight to Win organization?
Well, earlier on this year, I was helping some friends train out in Colorado, and I was living out in Firestone. So I found a man named Ryan Walden who actually competed in Fight to Win himself. And we just developed a really good connection. You know, he's a nice person. He realized I had a lot of talent in the sport, so he was the one who helped me get the opportunity out here.
And you are competing against DC Hazen. Did I get his name right?
Oh, yep. It doesn't matter if you get his name right. You won't remember him.
Wow. Okay. So tell me, I'm sure you've watched a video at this point, if there is any of him. What do you know about the guy you're facing this Friday?
I actually know, I guess he has really good snap downs. I've seen a video of him doing an arm spin. So it's just a mix between a judo and a wrestling type technique. But, you'll snap the arm down. It's similar to an arm drag, but you just dive between the arm and you regulate the orientation of your body. You're facing away from your opponent and then flip them over your head and then like pike your butt up in the air.
Yeah.
But it's a real basic move, like a high school wrestling move. Unfortunately, I started my training out in Cincinnati, Ohio, and had the privilege of training with a wrestler by the name of Kay Hogliev for a little while. But he scored 8th in the Olympics, so I'm not too concerned with some high school wrestling.
Okay, so just for everybody, you want to check out Friday the 10th. If you're listening to this after, just go to Flow Sports, watch the fight. You can watch Brandon take out DC Hazen either now or on replay, depending on when you hear the broadcast. First thing I want to know is, Brandon, how did you get into, where does it all start for you? So it starts Ohio? Is that where I'm getting this correct?
Yes, Ohio is where I started my training. Really, I just got into jiu-jitsu to look for friends and things like that. I was living out in Mason, had just moved out there with my family, well, I guess my dad, and I looked up on the line and I saw that Georgia school was about 5 miles away from me, and I was like, what better of an opportunity than to go train with someone who has competed at the highest level himself. So. Oh
yeah, I completely agree. Did you, when you went to high school, were you on the wrestling team or football team, or were you in sports of any kind? I mean, how does somebody, I'm intrigued with this now. Now, just for personal reasons, I'm currently on my 10-year midlife crisis that just keeps constantly getting me into some form of reliving what I used to do. So what was it like in high school for you? Because you're still young. You're young in the sport. You're just a brown belt currently, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're 7 or 8 years into this, somewhere in that range, if I guess correctly?
Okay, now I have an odd journey in the sport. Okay. I actually ended up receiving my brown belt 2 years and 11 months into my training.
And why is that?
I picked up on the sport Well, initially I didn't pick up on the sport so fast. I had to read a lot of books. I had to study a lot of film, and luckily I had a man named Eric Ramsey, who's my fundamentals coach out when I trained with George Gurgel, and he just gave me a ton of insight into the sport, and really he helped me to develop a love and a passion for what I was doing. So it really just made me put some dedication towards it, and once I started getting into the groove of the sport and really understanding how things were doing, and he really had an important meaning to teach people by concepts. He said, if you teach someone just move by move, they can only get as good as you. If you teach a man by concepts, he can achieve greater than you. So I really took that to heart. And then when I started to study, it just took off from there, and I picked up really quick after that and competed. And like I said, luckily I achieved my brown belt in a little under 3 years.
Well, with Gurgel, I mean, you accidentally worked yourself into, and I guess most people don't know this. I'm sure you get this question all the time. I'm thinking about joining or doing jiu-jitsu. What should I do? And I don't think people start from the standpoint of, well, there's 3 different reasons to take it, and what are your reasons? Is it self-defense? Is it to learn the mechanics, or is it to compete? You wound up in a competition facility, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know it at first.
And neither did I. I picked my place based on my instructor, who is a multi-time world champion and a great guy, right? And I read up on him, and I thought, okay, this is a great place to go. It's close. I like everything about it. The bona fides look good on it. I'm going here. And I walked in, and it was a competition facility. And at 48,
and who's your instructor, by the way? I don't mean to cut you off.
I apologize. I'll give the nod. It's Sammy Garcia. I train at Teixeira Garcia. I'm out of the Gracie line. I guess I'm still technically a part of the Grand Gracie line because I've done my homework on it and I've seen how it all came to here. But Sammy's a multi-time champion, and it is a competition-based place. I didn't know that. I went in because I just wanted to grapple. That's my high school background, and you'll know this when you get over 40. You are going to cling to whatever it is you did around that time. We all remember our 20s as something special, and that's how I felt. And so that's, I've done a little boxing, I've done a little MMA, and doing this show, I've been around the sport. So someone said, another friend of mine who's a world champion, shout out to Elena Maxwell, former Strike Force women's fighter, she said, you should get a gi. It's totally different. And it's funny because I just had this discussion with and I hate the word, and I've got to find a better word, my sensei. It doesn't seem right. It's not a big enough word sensei's not right, but you get it.
It's professor in jiu-jitsu.
It's professor, right? I believe it's professor. Yes, I believe it to be more professor. I just say sir a lot. Anybody who can snap their foot down every time they're showing you with the perfect curled toe is okay in my book. So she said, and he was telling me this the other day, he goes, well, you took like 6 years of wrestling. You should be a straight ahead guy. I said, it's like 30 years ago. None of that has any bearing on right now, and picking up a gi at 48. And it's happening. This is like a real movement that I'm seeing. People are taking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as it's commonplace. It's becoming a very commonplace model. I can tell you a couple of world champions down in San Diego where they've got 400 students. I mean, these are crazy facilities. So I'm wondering, how did you make the jump into a competition facility so dramatically? Because that's just a different lifestyle altogether.
Well, and dating back to, like, when you asked me the question about did I wrestle in high school, I did, but very briefly. I wrestled for a little bit my junior year, and I was horrible.
So was I.
I'm glad to hear there's not just one of us.
No, in fact, I was reading about another world champion, a guy who actually went to the Olympics. His first year of wrestling, he was 1-16. I think my first couple of years were an abomination, and then I grew a little bit and got stronger after high school, and I wrestled with a club, and I did much better there. And then I just was done with it. It's too much work. If anybody's listening to this who's casually thinking, hey, I want to take jiu-jitsu or boxing or MMA, you better be prepared. This isn't like a casual thing. I think you can take Brazilian jiu-jitsu for technique. I think you can take it for self-defense, but if you walk into a competition facility, it's just I didn't know. I didn't know till after I was already in it for a few months and realized how deep I was. How was that for you to walk into? Those are some very serious lines. I mean, those lines are dramatic.
Well, guys who came out underneath George Gurgel, such as and obviously Rich Franklin also trained with Matt Hume, but Rich Franklin, you have names like Matt Brown, Justin Edwards, Tommy Hayden. A lot of guys who were in the UFC, a lot of guys who were competing at the highest level came out underneath him. Chris Mearswack was in Strike Force. Brian Goldsby has been in multiple organizations. So you look at lines of killers that you have to face, and you're right. I had no idea what I was getting into. But before I actually jumped into jiu-jitsu, I told my dad that since it was close and I noticed it was far away and I just wanted to meet people, I told him, hey, I'm going to take this up in grappling. And he just compared it back to wrestling. And he told me I was actually going to suck. So, I really held on to that. And I was like, I'm not going to suck. I'm going to make something out of it. I will do well, no matter. And I really didn't even know there were jiu-jitsu competitions. My first one, I thought someone drove me to the Kumite, So I had no idea what was going on. But when I really got into it and I started to look at the technical aspect, you can't help but fall in love. You learn so much about it. You learn about your lineage. You learn about the honor that it carries with you and the respect behind it. And there's nothing you can't love about it.
And I completely agree with you. That's how it was for me. And the funny part that I find interesting, everybody around me was aware of their lineage, about my professor, they knew about Sammy, they knew about his background, and I could see that there was no open discussion, which means generally it's kind of on the person when they join. And I've seen this specifically only with grappling. I don't think this goes to boxing. I don't think anybody ever looks that hard there when you're talking one-on-one combat. But specifically in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we all seem to care about where we fall on that line and who taught who and what our background is and what's that picture. Nobody told me what the picture on the wall was, although I knew because I do this show. Nobody taught me. Nobody teaches you how to tie a belt. Nobody does that at a competition place. If you want that nice and neat, you need to go to I would tell you to go to a Gracie Barra. Probably that's probably your best bet. To get involved in, if that's what you're after. I went into a place where the first time I took down a higher belt, they picked me up and tossed me over like I didn't even know what happened to me. I was just lucky enough to do a simple inside sweep takedown and trip on a higher belt competition guy, and the next move he broke my nose.
Ouch.
Welcome to the line. And but that's the line I picked. I knew very well that 7 to 8 line was the competition line, and they treated me as such. And I think I respect the fact that they don't pull punches on that competition line. And it made me take a step back and go, okay, I need a little bit more before I do this again.
Well, it also says, how is there any love lost when someone's making you better? And I believe that's the heart behind it.
Yeah. And now how long did it take you before you felt comfortable when you started to formulate what your own personal role was? When you start, what is your game like? When did you first realize, okay, when I'm doing anything under a time limit, I'm not talking just a regular spar at the end of the day, but let's talk about competition. When did you know that you were starting to formulate it as a chess match?
So I believe it was actually later on in my white belt. They say you usually get it around, blue belt, but I believe halfway through white belt, I really already understood, hey, these are the things I'm probably better at. There are a lot of things I feel like I'm going to pick up along the way. But even early on, I just felt, hey, there's a reason my coach is telling me to watch these videos. There's a reason he's telling me to do these certain things. So even unbeknownst to me, I already had a game implemented in me early on in my stage, which, early on now, I pull no punches to my opponents. They watch film on me or anything. I'm very triangle heavy. I'm Kimura heavy and, and armbar heavy. So, and obviously it sounds like a very simple thing. You feel like they teach you the triangle armbar and omoplata flow in the first couple of days.
Yeah.
But, I've figured out a way to blend plenty of sweeps into that. Obviously, I'm a large leg attacker now, later on in my game. But that's that's a different story. But still early on in the game,